afternoon to respected Chairman Dr. D.K. Modi sir, our Chief Mentor our Professor Dr. R.K. Khandar sir, Director Dr. Dipankar Sharma sir, all HODs, my colleagues and dear students. Today, I, Neha Gupta, Assistant Professor, Computer Science and Engineering Department, Dr. K. Modi Institute of Engineering and Technology, welcomes you all in the today's webinar on the topic data mining and its functionalities. We are pleased to have as a guest our esteemed alumni, Mr. Brijesh Yadav from the batch of 2006 to 10 CSC branch. He is currently working as a module lead at Alten Qualsofts Labs India Private Limited. Now, welcome sir. Now, coming to the topic, what data mining is. In the today's era, as we all know, we are drowning in the data. There is lots of data which we have retrieved from the various sources like social media platforms, e-commerce sites, government sites, society, and other areas. Like, what is the use of such a huge amount of data if we can't do, if we're still starving for the knowledge? Here, the data mining serves the purpose. Data mining extracts the important knowledge or the information from the different data sources to help us in the business decision process. Now, the further presentation will be proceeded by my team members, that is Ms. Ruchi Dondial, Mr. Ravi Singh, and Mr. Siddharth Pandey. He will now I request Ruchi to provide a glimpse into the data mining and its functionality. Ruchi, over to you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Good afternoon, everyone. To all the respected faculties and seniors, my name is Ruchi Dhondial and I'm a student of third year BTech CAC. So to begin with this topic of data mining and functionalities, first of all, we really need to know what the term data means. I'm sure we've all heard this term of data and used this term in our daily conversations with everyone, but do we really know what data is? So if to say in simple terms, any sort of known facts or numbers, words, images, audios, any visual, any graph, it can be called as data. And why do we need data mining? Coming to that, in this digital age, terabytes of data is being generated by the second. Anything and everything that we do, even your Facebook updates, even your tweets and the blogs you write, even your banking transactions, surveillance data, queries, the clicks that we do while browsing, everything, this constitutes as data. And since we have such a huge amount of data, obviously we need to analyze this to extract knowledge. So in simple words, data mining is the process of extracting useful information from a larger set of data, which is very useful for taking strategic business decisions or for any organization for that matter. Now, coming forward to the complete process of KDD. What is KDD? KDD is also known as Knowledge Discovery and Database. And before proceeding further, there is a very minute difference between what is KDD and what is data mining. Oftentimes we see people confused between the two, but there is a difference, however minute. So to clarify that, KDD or Knowledge Discovery and Database refers to the overall process of discovering useful information from data, useful knowledge from data. It involves the evaluation and possibly interpretation of patterns to make the decision of what qualifies as knowledge. It also includes the choice of encoding schemes, pre-processing, sampling, and projections of the data prior to the data mining step. And data mining refers to the application of algorithms for extracting patterns from data without the additional step of the KDD process. So once the difference is clear, we'll move on to the KDD process, which constitutes of 7 steps. And the thing to note here is that this KDD process is iterative and interactive. This means that if, for example, we're on step number 3 and we think that we've missed something in step number 2, so we can always go back to rectify our mistakes. Now, moving on to step number 1, data cleaning. Okay, so data cleaning is the process where the data gets cleaned, as the name suggests. And why do we need this? Because data in the real world is normally incomplete, noisy, and inconsistent. The data available in some data sources might be lacking some attributes like some attribute values or data of interest. If we take an example for data cleaning, suppose you want demographic data of customers, and what if the available data does not include the attributes for gender or age? Then of course, if this data is processed, we'll get unreliable information at the end. So data could be inconsistent, and if it is not clean, the end result would not be accurate, needless to say. So data cleaning involves a number of techniques, including filling the missing values manually or combine the computer and human inspection, so that the output of cleaning process is adequately clean data. Now moving on to the next step, data integration. This is the process where data from different data sources is integrated into one. And why do we need this? Because data lies in different formats in different locations. And obviously data could be stored in databases or text files or spreadsheets or documents or data cubes. In any form it can be stored. So data integration is really complex and tricky because obviously data from different sources does not match normally. And what we can do for this is we can use metadata. In simpler terms, metadata is data about data, and we use this to effectively reduce errors in data integration process. Another issue we face during integration is of data redundancy. This means that the same data might be available in different tables in the same database or even in different data sources. So the two major approaches we typically take for data integration is tight coupling and loose coupling. In tight coupling, data is combined from different sources into a single physical location through the process of ETL, that is extraction, transformation, and loading. And in loose coupling, data remains in the actual sources, but an interface is provided such that and that takes a query from users and sends the query directly to the source databases to obtain the result. Now, moving on to the next step, we have data selection. So needless to say, if we want reliable and accurate information at the end, we have to go through huge amounts of data. And this process requires large volumes of historical data for analysis. So usually the data repository that we have with integrated data contains much more data than is actually required. So from the available data, the data of interest or data which is relevant to our search, that needs to be selected and stored at a place. So data selection is the process where the data relevant to the analysis is retrieved from the database. Now, moving to the next step, we have of data transformation. In simple words, data transformation is the process of transforming and consolidating data into different forms that are suitable for mining. And data transformation normally involves a few steps like aggregation, which is a process where summary or aggregation operations are applied to data. Next, we have generalization, where low level data is replaced by higher level data by using concept hierarchy climbing. And then we have normalization. Normalization, we use normalization so that we can make the data fall within a small and specified range. If I give a very simple example, let's say we have a cluster of numbers like 5,000, 2 lakhs, and n number of numbers. What we can do to make the process simple is to normalize the data by making it fall between a very small range such as 0.0 to 1.0. This will obviously make our work easier. Now, moving on to the very important step, data mining. Data mining is the core process. It is a very important process where a number of complex methods are applied to extract pattern from data. And data mining process includes a number of tasks such as association, classification, prediction, clustering, time series analysis, which we will discuss in the later slides. The next step is of pattern evaluation. This is a very important step because in pattern evaluation, we identify the truly interesting patterns, representing knowledge based on different types of interestingness measures. Now, what this means is that a pattern is considered to be interesting only if it is potentially useful, it is easily understandable by us, or validates some hypothesis that we want to prove. So this is done by using various algorithms like FP tree algorithm, association rules, etc. But to sum up in a single line, pattern evaluation is very necessary because it helps us identify the data that is relevant for us and follows some kind of interestingness measure. Now, coming to the last step, we have knowledge representation. This is again very important step, because once we have mined the data and once we have obtained all the information, it is very necessary to present it in such a way that is appealing to the users. So the information mined from the data needs to be presented to the user in an appealing way, and different knowledge representation and visualization techniques are applied to provide the output of data mining to the users. Thus, to give a rough overview, KDD process is a very important process where we clean the data, integrate it, select it, and then transform it, mine it, evaluate the pattern, and finally represent the knowledge. So all these 7 steps constitute of the knowledge and discovery database process. Now I would like to hand over to Ravi sir to explain further classification. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ruchi. Uh, my screen is visible. Is my screen visible?
Yes. It is.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Ruchi, for guiding us through the whole KDD process. Really, it's very important for us to clean our data and make it consistent so that we can really mine out the important information that we are looking for. If our data is inconsistent and it have a lot of inconsistency and other stuffs, it would affect our methods a lot, our results that we are looking for, the basic concepts that we are going to apply will be affected a lot because of uh, incomplete data or inconsistent data. So from the data we have, we always don't need to get a similar kind of information. We want different kind of information based on the problem we have or problem we are trying to tackle. So for different kind, for to extract different kind of information from the data we have, we got to have a different methods. So let's move forward in our discussion and move to the methods that we use in data mining to extract information from our data. So the very first method that we are going to look for is classification. Classification is what classification is. Classification is basically a technique of categorizing the observations into categories. Means we already know what data we have. We have the data. Let's say we have item X and we have X feature n number of features. So we already know what data is, but because of the amount of data, we can just match the features and classify things separately. So we have algorithms that find the similarity within our item features and classify them into different labels, means different categories. If we have seen the menu bar in like different shopping items, we can go into electronics, then we go into mobile, then we select another sub option, and then we get a different set of items according to the list we have selected. So that is what classification we do in classification. With after getting different set of information, we can process it in a way we want. Let's move to clustering. As far as clustering is performed on a data that we don't know much about. The data is unlabeled, labeled. We don't know what data is all about, but we just have features. From that features, we try to find the similar features and adjust them. Okay, items with similar features, we group them together, and we have separate clusters of it, and then we can target those separate clusters independently and take actions around them. The very basic example they can give about it is company finding common aspects within their customers. Like if we talk about the smartphone market, we can see there is a budget segment, there is lower segment, and there is a premium segment. So when we mark our salary and the expenditure, we can really create clusters where we can find the persons who from lower budget segment who is targeting the lower budget market, around 10 to 10,000 and so on. So that is all about clustering. That is what we do. We find similar patterns and try to group them together and do some operations over them. And there is outlier detection. What outlier detection is? Outlier detection is identification of rare items, events, or observation. Like we have a group, uh, let's say when we see market, there are some people who tend to expend more than they used to, than they have. So that makes sense. So company is not going to target those people who are like earning 25,000 and earning in lakhs, expanding in lakhs, taking that doesn't make sense for companies to target people who are behaving differently from the others. We want to target large clusters of people. They are behaving similarly. Then there's some people that are scattered all around and the data around it. So, okay. And then if we come to regression, regression is a predictive analysis. We have data about something. Let's if we have like two datas about data something, we can just plot it and have a line of best fit. Okay. Most of times you can see like weather prediction is done through regression, market analysis is done through regression. So we take, or like let's say sales data we have around the days, like or years we have, like let's say we have sales data of last year. We will, if we will plot it according to date, we will see how the sales goes. Like if you see the current scenario of COVID-19 example, we estimate how many beds we need, like how many patients are going to be. So that is going through some of the prediction analysis. We have a graph and we are expecting that after this many days we are going to have this many patients. So that is what we do in regression. Moving forward to association rule learning, as it says, association means we are finding relationship between items. The very major use of association rule learning is market basket analysis. We can go to shops and we can see like bread and jam kept together, so that a user buying a bread can also look for jam and use it, buy and have a proper. So moving forward in the discussion, we are going to look for classification. As I said, classification is basically just categorizing things according to their features and into different labels. Okay, so what this data looks like is we have we have different records, tuples, let's say x comma y. X are the attributes, features, or let's say properties of something. Okay, and y is the label what that product is with that features. Like let's say if we assume let's say an animal cat, it has sharp nails, doesn't play around much, ears length, shape. These are the properties. And if we know that these are all the properties we have, then we can actually say that it is a cat. So X is what is all about features, and Y is the response that we have. And here we are much familiar with the data. We know what data is all about. Okay, we need to just categorize and separate them into different categories, so that we can target them separately. Okay, let's move forward. Classification example. Yes, here is a classification example. The figure we can see there are two ducks and two are non-ducks duck pictures. When we feed this to our supervised learning algorithm, like classification, it picks up the similar features between the ducks and categorizes them into the same label or as a duck, and others into different animals. So if we later give features of some other species of duck, it can really predict that it is mostly going to be a duck. This is another example. It comes from the algorithm, like it's plotted, so it looks like clustering, but it comes from nearest neighbor. Okay, so this all points that are like clustered together have similarities in them. They are so close, they are not very different from each other. So we classify them into one class. Let's say class A and class B. We will see about nearest neighbor in just a bit. Let's move forward. And these are like classification techniques. We basically use decision tree methods, rule-based neighbor, nearest neighbor, and we have naive-based and neural network. And the assemble classifiers are like optimizers for our methods or techniques we already have, like boosting. We are not going to talk about it later, so I will brief about it just now. Boosting is like we are using different algorithms for the same problem, and the results are being uh, uh, weighted out, and we will get a less variant result. Means properly stable. For stability, we are using boosting, using different methods for the same problem, and then we are comparing the results and probabilistically giving a better result. Bagging is just a bit of different. Bagging is like we are applying same algorithm on the with different set of data. Like we have a very big set of data. We have like we are taking some attributes, two attribute at first, and the other two, and the other two, and then later we will combine that whole result into one. And when we apply bagging to decision tree, it becomes random forest. We will see about it. Just I think we will start with decision tree next. Is so decision tree belongs to a supervised learning. As far as what supervised learning is, supervised learning, we call it supervised learning when we give features and answers. Like we have features and labels already in our data, so we know what we want from the data. So that is what a supervised learning is. So all of the classification techniques are kind of supervised learning. The GIF that is going on, it is a binary operation that is going on, a binary AND operation. Here 0 means false, 1 means true. If both the conditions are true, then only our X and Y will be true. So we know what we want to do. If we start from X, if X is 0, if X is given 0, then there is no way we can get X and Y is goes to true. So decision tree goes directly to 0 in the first case. And if we give 1, it moves forward in the left hand side and asks for you Y. If you give Y as 0, like false, then true and false means false. We can see the table. And at the end, we can see if we both X and Y is true, we are giving output as true. Okay. So a very basic example of decision tree that you can relate to very easily is like everyone has making call to a call center now and then. How we start our conversation. We can just like start speaking our own language. Everyone has their own language. Like people in South use Tamil, we use Hindi, and outside people use English. They have different languages. So when we call to a customer care, it starts by asking us what language we want to talk in. We want to get communicated in. Okay, so that is how communication starts. Then when you select a language, it asks you another bunch of questions. You select one and then it moves forward. It moves in a hierarchy like this diagram is going on. Okay, so if I have to summarize, like decision tree is a graphical representation of all the solutions of the given problem we have. Okay. It works on rules. Like every question is being asked is a rule. If we answer yes or no, accordingly the algorithm is going to move forward and classify us into different options. Moving forward, a rule-based classifier. This also looks like, if you think about it, it's like a decision tree. But decision tree have separate set of rules. It goes through one by one through them. Here we have, for every label, we have a rule written out. Every time we want items from a similar one label, let's say, then we pick up the rules and we apply it to the already given data, and we will short it out as label. Like the given rule is downwards, we can see blood type is equals to warm, and lay X is equals to S, then it's bird. It's not like decision tree is going to ask you for like if it's warm, then we are going to move forward and lay X. It asks, it's one liner rules and we apply it. It's very much similar to decision tree, but it's more like a what to say, one liner problem. We are going to apply whole rule in a single time. The data set that we have here are the names of the creatures like human, python, salmon, and blood type, given birth, can fly, live in water, and class. We want to map this the creatures that have been given here into the classes, the labels like mammals, fishes, amphibians. So we will have rules for everyone. Like there are 5 categories here, so we will have 5 rules. And whenever we want to sort out birds from this whole text data we have, we will apply these rules like give birth is goes to no and can fly is goes to yes, means it's going to be a bird. We will sort out the data and then we can do some operation over the data we have sorted out. Moving next is our nearest neighbor classifier. It says what it does. Nearest neighbor means the neighbor. Let's say in the human society we live, we have similar characteristics. We can see just by seeing someone. Let's say if you see a cat, we can see its characteristic and say that it's cat. If you see a dog, we know it's the dog because of its characteristic. It's very friendly to you. Because of the size, because of the behavior of the dog, all the features that we see in a dog, then we can classify them differently. So this is what it does. It actually takes the whole data every time and try to classify them differently. Okay, tries the similarity. It is the major use of nearest neighbor classifier is filtering through spams. Okay, and it's also used as search results, where we are less aware of the data and data is more scattered. We can pass in this algorithm, it will find the similarities in feature according to the variables we have given, and it will give you the proper similar items that we are looking for. Like in this case, the figure we have, we can see, we can have similarities of the duck. Okay, the shape of its the shape of its body, the way it behaves, what it is, and we can later classify it as it as its neighbor. Okay, so that is how a nearest neighbor works. It's not very different from the others one. Last one is naive Bayes or Bayesian belief. It's called naive Bayes. It's called naive because it believes that every feature that we have is independent of the fact of the presence of other feature. Even if they are depending on each other, we would consider them as they are independent. Okay, so that's why it's called naive, and it's called Bayes because it uses the Bayes theorem of probability. We actually use probabilistic way to figure out what we are going to do. Let me give you an example. A very good example would be like medication. If we go to a doctor, we give them an evidence, like we tell them that I have a sore throat, uh, I'm feeling lazy. He will check the temperature. He will say your body temperature, and after all the features, all the properties he has taken from you, all the evidence he has taken from you, he will apply a probabilistic way in his brain and think like you might have cold and a fever, and accordingly he will give you feedback or the medicines that you want. So and the naive Bayes is actually used in medical fields, and it is believed that it is very dependent. It is very consistent in medical field because of its probabilistic way, how it looks at the variable and works. Okay, we find probability. We see evidence, every evidence, and when we think a sore throat, then most probably I'm going to have a cold. Okay, so that probability is where it works, and it works very best with a large amount of data because of the way it works. And this is all we are going to cover in classification algorithms. And for the further explanation of different methods we have in data mining, I would like to hand it over to Siddharth. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Siddharth Pandey from BTech 4K CSE. Is my screen shareable or visible?
Yes.
Uh, so, thank you, Ravi, for explaining the classification in such easy and detailed manner. Now, moving on ahead, let's dig deep into some other methods of data mining, such as unsupervised learning or the clustering, which Ravi told you in the beginning of the classification method. So before starting clustering, we must know what actually cluster is. So cluster is basically a group of similar things or similar patterns or the objects which have some similarity in between them. Now moving on with the clustering methods. Clustering basically belongs to the unsupervised learning or the unsupervised family of the learning. What unsupervised learning is, we have only the input data here. We do not have the corresponding output data or the label with that. Unsupervised learning cannot provide a perfect output of, from the given input. What it does is basically finds a relationship between the data set by its own itself. Now talking about clustering. Clustering, as I told you, clustering basically a technique to categorize the data in different clusters which have similarity between them, and then labeling it out after the categorization. In clustering, a group of different data objects is classified as a similar object. After the classification of data, into various groups. A group labeled is assigned to each cluster. There are some mandatory conditions for the clustering, which as we can see in the slide. Clustering must work for all the M observations. It means that clustering must work for all the attributes provided in the dataset, or all the attributes provided in the dataset, and all the clusters they made. The clustering is made. Observation inside a cluster must be similar. It means in a cluster or in a group, the observation or the data object must be similar or have some similarities between them. Observations in different clusters must be dissimilar. Uh, two cluster cannot share the same object, and one data object cannot be shared between two clusters. It directly means that two clusters cannot have uh, two different clusters cannot have similar observations or data sets or item sets. There is a basic term for it: interclass similarity and intraclass dissimilarity. What it means that object in the same group or cluster must be similar, and the object in different groups or clusters must be distinct. Now moving on ahead, talking about clustering. While doing clustering analysis, we first partition the data into groups based on the data similarity or the item similarity, then assign the label or to the group. The main advantage of clustering over classification is that now, while seeing clustering, people might get confused between clustering and classification, as both are classifying objects in different data set or different uh, both algorithms or both models are just classifying the data into different partition of the graph or the something presentable. So the main difference between the clustering and classification algorithm is that it is adaptable and changes. And what we do in classification is first we assign the label to the data set and then we classify it. But in clustering, first we classify the data into different clusters and then we provide the label to the clusters. So now moving on ahead, let's see an example of the clustering in real world, or how the clustering can be applied in real world. So let's take an example of a mobile company. What mobile company basically have, they have four type of smartphones. First one is flagship smartphones, second one is high budget phones, third one is medium budget phone, and fourth one is cheap phones. The main problem arises for companies how they actually get customers relevant to their phone segmentation, like how which customer would be able to buy a flagship phone, which customer would be able to buy a high budget phone, or which customer would be interested in buying a cheap phone. uh, on the basis of the past past history of the company and the customer, what they do is they provide the data set to a clustering model. Clustering model what does is it reads the it defines a relationship between the past events of the company and the customer, and it classifies customer in four parts. First one, who will be interested in the flagship phone. Second one, who will be interested in the high budget phone, and the third one is who will be interested in a buying a cheap one phone, or so on. So all this process is also called as customer segmentation. uh, Clustering also used for data analysis, market research, pattern recognition, and it is basically a unsupervised learning concept, and it identifies the patterns between the data set by its own self. Now, while talking about clustering, we also think why we use clustering instead of classification, when we can use also classification for the same segmentation. The main thing is that it has high dimensionality. What the dimensionality means, that it can work on the large data set with a maximum number of attributes. Data with high dimension along with the data with small data set or a smaller data set compared to the large data set. It has also a high scalability. Scalability basically means it can extend from a small data set to a large data set with with no loss in accuracy with the clustering model. Now, as Ravi talked about association rule learning, it is also a concept of supervised learning. What association rule learning is, it basically discovers a pattern and relationship between some items or data set provided by the company or the customer, or some from somewhere we got the data set. Association rule learning is basically a machine learning model which discovers interesting relationship between variable in large data set. Association rule is one of the very important concept in machine learning, because it is basically using market basket analysis. Now, talking about market basket analysis, what market basket analysis basically is, one of the key techniques to find the used by a large retailers, like owner of the supermarket and the stores of stores where we have a large amount of products. It works by association rule learning, or but what market basket analysis does is, it works by looking for combinations of items that occurs together frequently in transactions. It works by taking the by finding the relationship between the item set. Let's take an example of bread and butter. Uh, it is often have it is a higher possibility that a customer who goes for a goes in the store to buy a bread will likely to buy a jam after that. So what is let's take an example for a store. Like when we go to store, we see that all the vegetables are placed in the same aisle or same table. All the dairy products are placed together. All the cosmetic product and the like deodorant, makeup products are placed together. They form another group. So what it does is psychologically affect the customer, and it reminds him that he can buy something after he buys a product. Like he buys bread, then he can go for buy a jam and milk after that. So association rule learning is basically used for market basket analysis. Let's see now what an association exactly look like. Association rule learning has two main terms. First one antecedent and the second one is consequent. Antecedent is that let's say what antecedent is, the product which has been bought by customer earlier, and the consequent is the likely product which the customer will buy after buying the antecedent. Like customer buys a bread and egg from a store, he will more likely to buy a milk after that. So the item set will be bread, egg and milk. The matrices which helps us to understand the association rule learning or association rule mining better are support matrices, confidence matrices, lift matrices. So what support is? Support is the transaction both containing x and y upon total number of transactions. So what basically is that is it checks how frequent an item set in the data set is, means how frequently a product is bought in the all transactions or all the previous data sets or the in the history. It will check how often the milk has been bought in the previous transactions. Confidence, what confidence tells is, confidence is the likeliness of occurrence of consequent or the card, given that the antecedent has been already bought. uh, what in the other simple words, confidence will tell us how a customer will more likely to buy a milk after buying bread and egg, or he will buy a jam or milk. So what it will does, it will find a relationship between milk and bread, milk and egg, and then it will predict and find a relationship between milk and bread. If the relation if the result is greater than one, then there will be a high chances of buying the product. If the result is less than one, then they are uh, there is less likely to buy a product after that. And if the result is equal to one, there is no relationship between the antecedent and the consequent. Now talking about lift. lift lift overcome the probability of the or the problem of confidence. Sometimes there are no relationship between the product which is consequent antecedent, but confidence shows that there is some sort of relationship between them. So lift overcomes that problem. It will check how popular the after product is actually is before finding the relationship. Like it will check how popular the relationship between milk and bread is actually is in the real world before predicting that there is a relationship between milk and bread. In this example, as we can see, there are many clusters formed or many group formed of different type of products in that, like tropical fruit, other vegetable, yogurt, and these three are basically these three are the product, or we can say that these three are the actual table which have some sort of relationship between them. Like if a customer buys yogurt, he will more likely to buy a specialty cheese or soft cheese after that. If he buys a yogurt, he will buy a cereal. After that, and if a product buys a cereal, he will more likely to buy a milk after that. This is a whole relationship, a whole concept of association rule learning. Now, talking about the methods of the data mining, let's go and see how data mining can be applicable in the real world, or what are the real world applications of the data mining. So first one is market basket analysis. As I told you earlier, that market basket analysis is a modeling technique based upon a theory that if you buy a certain group, you are more likely to buy another group of the products. The second one is research analysis. Uh, Data mining and machine learning basically helps the researchers in finding any similar data from the database that might bring any change in research. In other words, we can say that what it does is it reads the previous events history and the history of the data set, and find some relation between them, find some sort of relation between them, find some sort of transaction between them, and it will predict the future with the help of that relation occurred in the past. The third one is future healthcare. Data mining can also be used in future healthcare. Like uh, we can use some sort of algorithm which uses the previous data of a customer of or the sick person who has some disease, and he'll track how often he gets sick, what are the causes of disease, what are the uh, circumstances of he gets often sick, and he'll predict what medicine he should use, what hospital he must go in, or what sort of medications he should go through. So data mining holds great potential to improve health system. It uses data and analytics to identify best practices that improve the care and reduces the cost. Data mining can also be used in education system. Data mining can be used in by an institute to take accurate decision, and also to predict the result of the student. By reading the previous behavior of a student, we can predict the future results of a student, how he'll more likely to perform in a test, by seeing how he already performed in previous tests or in previous events. We can use that also. Data mining can also be used in fraud detection. By fraud detection, we can say that we are living in a age with the information, or it it will we can also call this age is the information age, where information is money, and billions of dollars have been lost by the companies by being a by making it involved in the action of fraud. Data mining aids in providing meaningful patterns and turning data into information. What data mining will does in fraud detection field, it will read the how often how the hackers got into the company's database and use that data set or use that event to predict how we can prevent that action to be happen in future. We can also use data mining in lie detection. In lie detection, what they basically do is they record the behavior of a criminal or of a victim, and by performing some test and making them plotted in the graph. We can use that graph to uh, provide the model a data set, and the model will predict how if a victim of criminal is lying or not. So after seeing the real life application of data mining, let's go and see some real life application of the algorithm we discussed in the this presentation. We discussed in this presentation. So this is a k-means algo. As we can see, this is a k-means algorithm here, which is also used for. This is the main method for using clustering. What we are doing here is we are making some random data set using the elbow method to find the actual clusters, or how we are elbow method is a method to find the actual number of centroid to make the clusters. Or let me plot this for you first. So as we can see that elbow methods have been defined that there are four clusters which will be enough to differentiate the data into four clusters perfectly. After that, we will use four centroids to form the clusters of that data set. As we can see here, that dotted blue dots are the actual data items or actual attributes, and or we can call the actual events or the in the data set. The red dots are the centroid of those clusters, and we can see that mm, uh, maximum of the data set have been divided into four clusters. This is how actually a clustering algorithm works. Now let's see one more algorithm, which is which will be an example of classification algorithm. In this algorithm, what we use is we use the iris dataset, which is very popular in the machine learning algorithms. In this dataset, they have provided three kind of flowers. First one is versicolor, second one is setosa, and third one is I forgot the name. Sorry. Uh, Virginica. These are the bio name for those plants. What we are doing here is we are classifying these three flowers on the basis of their sepal width and petal width, as you can see here. So let's run the algorithm and see how they will plot it. In the graph, we can see there are three colors. There are three colors, one of which is red, second one is purple, and third one is green. These different colors shows the different classification of those flowers on the basis of some pre-provided labels or some pre-provided predictors, which are sepal width and petal widths. After that, we can see an example of linear regression also. Uh, Regression, what does it? It finds the relationship and the formula between x and y, where x is a attribute and y is a predictable function. So as we can see, this is a random data provided by some company, where blue dots are some random data plotted on the graph according to their values on the graph. Like we can say on the x-axis there is salary, on the y-axis there is the experience of some employee, and we have to find relationship between salary and experience in year of an employee. So after going through a Linear regression, we can find a perfect fit of line which divides the data into two parts of the graph, and this line will also give us a relationship between the x and y axis, which will be the relationship between salary and the years of experience. So these are the examples which actually used in the machine learning algorithms. These are the actual machine learning algorithm, and this is how actually data mining is done in the real life. So with that, the wholesome of the presentation is the goal is to turn data into information and information into insights. Thank you so much for the presentation.
Thank about the topic, and also enlighten our students with a few words of wisdom about the industry exposure. Mr. Brijesh Yadav.
Uh, Thanks for having me here. This is Girjesh. I was in batch 2006 to 2010, and yeah. So I just want to say thank you so much for having me here. And this methodology of education, how you guys are providing by the student, getting them into connect with the professionals, it's really wonderful. Because when we were there, we don't have such opportunity to directly interact with the professionals, go through their LinkedIn profile and get into connect. So I was seeing the whole presentation. It was really wonderful. Thanks to Ruchi, Ravi and Siddharth, who was other end sharing the information and enlightening us with the knowledge. But I see things are like I have a 8 year of industry experience, and I have seen so many presentation till now. So I just wanted to give few feedbacks where they can apply and improve. So if you see, everyone is having a pandemic situation everywhere. So can we take that as an example, and can we elaborate and classify, categorize whatever the algorithm we discussed, naive Bayes, rule-based decision-making tree, and can we apply those things in our current scenario? The what part we are missing, actually we are not taking real life example which is happening with us. I know like Siddharth has given a multiple real example related with the phone, but what is the reason behind it? Why everybody wants to categorize, simplify the data? Because everybody wants some information and resolve real time problem, correct? So what is my suggestion? Be start utilizing your real data as an example, real example, like pandemic situation, your traffic. Can you categorize the traffic and provide a solution so that anyone who can use in future can get benefited from this present example? Can we be oriented towards to providing the solution which is we are facing in a daily life? As you know, I was seeing that mm, we have uh, what is the reason behind it, data mining and functionalities, why we are studying this topic. The reason is we want to solve some real solution. So we want to solve some real problem which is faced by the everybody. And you know, the best part in the IT industry now, people, the whole industry is behind the skillful labor, not they are not looking for the people who are coming from a tier 1 school or tier 2 college or tier 3. They are, everyone is behind the what to say, you have a skill or not. So as I was seeing, the communication wise, the presentation wise, everything was good. And I really appreciate the management who is taking such decision and helping student to get into explore themselves, giving the confidence how the real industry works. Actually, yeah, thank you so much. And yeah, please connect if you want. At least I can help you towards, as I'm in Bangalore, related with the data mining or AI ML. Currently we are working towards it. So if anything I can help you towards any online training or anything, please let me know. Thank you so much. Thank you once again having me here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brijesh, for enlightening our students with your valuable suggestions. Thank you so much. Now, if you have any queries, you can kindly write to us at webinars@kiranmodifoundation.com. I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to our dignitaries to providing such an opportunity to us. And thank you all the faculty members and the students for joining us today. Thank you. Have a great day.